The smell of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee filled the small roadside diner as Nathan Carter flipped pancakes with practiced ease. It was just another morning in his quiet little town, until she walked in. She was out of place from the moment. She stepped through the door, tall, poised, wrapped in a coat that probably cost more than Nathan made in a month. But it wasn't her appearance that caught his attention. It was the look in her eyes. Lost. Not the kind of loss that came from missing a turn on the highway. The kind of loss that came from losing yourself. And then, just as she reached into her pocket to pay for her meal, her face changed. Panic, confusion. I think I lost my wallet, she murmured, barely above a whisper. Nathan should have ignored it. He had enough on his plate, raising a daughter alone, running the diner, barely keeping up with the bills. But instead, he found himself pulling out his own wallet, shaking his head with a small smile. "Don't worry about it. Breakfast is on me." What he didn't know was that the woman sitting across from him was no ordinary tourist. She was Olivia Harper, one of the richest CEOs in the country. And that one small act of kindness, it was about to change both of their lives forever. What happens when a billionaire CEO is forced to live like an ordinary person? And what if, in the process, she finds something she never knew she was missing? This is a story about fate, love, and the choices that define us. So if you're ready for a journey filled with unexpected twists, heartfelt moments, and a romance that will stay with you long after the final chapter, hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive into a love story unlike any other. How does that sound? It's engaging, cinematic, and hooks the audience right away while making the call to action feel natural and inviting. Let me know if you want any tweaks. A struggling single dad helped a cashless tourist girl, unaware she was secretly a billionaire. CO, the scent of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee filled the small roadside diner, mingling with the faint aroma of motor oil from the auto repair shop next door. It was early morning, and Nathan Carter was already behind the counter, flipping pancakes with the precision of a man who had done this 1,000 times before. The diner wasn't much. Just a small establishment with a handful of booths and a faded menu hanging above the counter. But for Nathan, it was his lifeline. After his wife passed away 3 years ago, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old daughter Lily alone, this place had become his second home. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills most of the time. Nathan glanced at the clock. 7:45 a.m. The breakfast rush was in full swing. A couple of truckers sat at the far end, devouring their eggs and hash browns, while a group of local farmers discussed the latest weather forecast over steaming mugs of coffee. Lily sat in the corner booth, her small hands flipping through the pages of a worn-out book. The bell above the diner door chimed, drawing Nathan's attention. A woman stepped inside, her presence immediately commanding attention. Not because she was loud or extravagant, but because she looked out of place. She was tall, with wavy chestnut hair that cascaded over her shoulders, and sharp, intelligent eyes that flicked around the room as if she was trying to assess her surroundings. Her tailored black coat and stylish ankle boots suggested she was from somewhere else, somewhere far from this dusty little town. Nathan wiped his hands on a rag and walked toward her. "Morning, ma'am. Have a seat wherever you'd like." She hesitated for a fraction of a second before choosing a booth near the window. Nathan grabbed a menu and set it down in front of her. "Coffee?" he asked. "Yes, please." Her voice was smooth, yet there was an underlying tension in it. Nathan poured her a cup and watched as she wrapped her fingers around the ceramic mug, as if savoring its warmth. Something about her seemed off. It wasn't just her attire or the way she carried herself. It was the way her eyes darted to the door, the way she bit her lip in quiet contemplation. He stepped back, giving her space. "Take your time with the menu." She nodded absently, but instead of looking at the menu, she stared out the window, lost in thought. A few minutes later, Nathan returned, order pad in hand. "Ready to order?" She blinked, as if pulled from a trance. "Oh, She glanced at the menu, scanning it quickly. "Just some scrambled eggs and toast, please." He scribbled it down. "Anything else?" "No, that's all." Nathan turned to leave, but something made him pause. She was still clutching her coffee cup too tightly. "You okay, Ma'am?" he asked carefully. She hesitated, then offered a strained smile. "Yes, just long morning." Nathan knew that look. He had seen it before, on himself, on customers who sat in that very booth after life had kicked them down. He nodded. "Well, breakfast helps. Be out in a minute." As he returned to the griddle, a faint sense of unease settled over him. There was something she wasn't saying, and then it happened. When he brought over her plate and set it down, she reached into her coat pocket and froze. Her expression changed in an instant, from composed to outright panic. She dug through her pockets, again more frantically this time. Her breath quickened. Nathan didn't need to be a detective to realize what was happening. She had no money. Her eyes met his, wide with embarrassment. I think I lost my wallet," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan saw the conflict in her face, the humiliation, the struggle to maintain dignity. He had been there before, in a grocery store when he was a few dollars short, in a hospital waiting room when he didn't know how he'd pay the next bill. He set down his notepad and gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Don't worry about it," her brow furrowed. "No, I can call someone, I can—" "It's just breakfast," he interrupted gently. "Not a big deal." She exhaled sharply, clearly unused to accepting help. "I'll pay you back," she insisted. Nathan simply shrugged. "If it makes you feel better." She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if trying to understand why he would do such a thing. For Nathan, it was simple. Sometimes people needed a little kindness. The rest of breakfast passed in near silence. She ate slowly, as if still grappling with the situation. Nathan went back to the counter, filling orders, checking in on Lily. But every so often, his gaze drifted back to her. When she finished, she hesitated before standing. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded. "Sure thing." She opened her mouth as if to say more, but stopped herself. Instead, she pulled out her phone, only to realize it was dead. She muttered something under her breath, clearly frustrated. Nathan watched her struggle with indecision. "Need a place to charge that?" he asked. She looked at him, then at Lily, who was now humming to herself while coloring in a notebook. For a moment, something unreadable flickered across her face. Regret, nostalgia, maybe both. Then, hesitantly, she said, "I don't want to impose, but I might need a little help figuring out what to do next." Nathan studied her carefully. He didn't know her story, didn't know where she came from or why she was here, but he did know one simple truth. She looked like someone who needed a hand, even if she was too proud to say it. He exhaled and nodded toward the door. "Come, let's figure this out." As they stepped outside together, neither of them realized this simple act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. The morning air was crisp as Nathan stepped outside, the chill biting at his skin. He held the door open for the woman, Olivia, as she had introduced herself, and she hesitated for a fraction of a second before stepping out of the diner. The golden sunlight bathed the quiet town, illuminating the cracked pavement and the rows of small shops that lined the main street. Nathan stuffed his hands into the pockets of his worn jacket and glanced at her. "So, what's your plan?" Olivia exhaled, rubbing her temples. "Well, considering I have no cash, no phone, and no way to contact anyone, I guess I don't really have one." Her honesty surprised him. Most people would have tried to cover their embarrassment with some excuse or bravado, but she was refreshingly direct. "I know how it feels," he said, his voice softer than expected. "Losing control of a situation, not knowing what comes next." Olivia turned her head slightly, studying him. Yeah? Nathan let out a dry chuckle. Yeah. Try being a single dad, running on fumes, just trying to make sure your kid doesn't see how close you are to losing it every day. Something in her expression shifted, a quiet understanding. She crossed her arms, as if shielding herself from more than just the cold. I should probably head to a bank, get a temporary card or something. Nathan considered this. Bank's about 3 miles out. You don't have a car? She shook her head. Rental. I left it at the rest stop down the highway where I think my wallet got stolen. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. Well, I can drive you there after my shift if you don't mind waiting a few hours. Her lips parted slightly, caught between hesitation and relief. You don't have to do that, I know. She let out a breath that turned to mist in the cool air. I appreciate it. Nathan gave a small nod and motioned toward the diner. Come on. You can sit inside while you wait. Olivia followed him back in, the warmth of the diner wrapping round them. Nathan went back to work, flipping pancakes, refilling coffee cups, and greeting the regulars. Olivia sat in a corner booth, watching the small-town morning unfold before her. She had spent so much of her life in the high-rise offices of New York, surrounded by business tycoons and luxury, that this world, a simple diner, a single father, a little girl with a crayon-stained notebook, felt almost foreign. Lily, Nathan's daughter, eventually abandoned her coloring and wandered over to Olivia's booth. "You're the lady who lost her wallet," she stated matter-of-factly. Olivia couldn't help but smile. "That's me." Lily tilted her head, examining Olivia as if she were some kind of puzzle. "You talk fancy." "I do," Lily nodded. Like the people on TV, Olivia let out a light laugh. She had spent years perfecting her polished corporate demeanor, but leave it to a child to call her out on it. "What's your name?" Olivia asked. "Lily." "That's a pretty name," Lily beamed. "Daddy named me after my mom's favorite flower." Olivia caught the past tense immediately. Was her favorite flower? She glanced at Nathan, who was busy at the griddle, flipping an omelette. There was something about the way he moved, steady, methodical, as if every action had purpose. He didn't seem like the kind of man who let life push him around. "You staying here?" Lily asked innocently. Olivia hesitated. "Just for a little while." The girl frowned. "You don't have anywhere else to go?" "I do," Olivia assured her. "I just need to figure some things out first." Lily seemed to accept this answer, though she still regarded Olivia with a curious expression. Then, without another word, she scooted into the booth across from her, picking up a crayon and continuing to color. Olivia watched her, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over her. It had been years since she'd been around a child for any significant amount of time, a normal life, a father, a daughter, a morning at a diner, something she had never known growing up. For the first time since she had lost her wallet, Olivia felt something unexpected. She didn't want to leave just yet. Hours passed, and eventually Nathan untied his apron and stretched. "All right," he called out. "I'm done. Let's get you to that bank." Olivia stood and grabbed her coat. As she and Nathan headed to the door, Lily piped up from her. "A seat. Are you coming back for dinner?" Olivia hesitated, taken aback by the question. Nathan shot his daughter a playful look. "Lily, you can't just invite people over like that." Lily pouted. "Why not?" Olivia, despite herself, smiled. "I think I might have to take you up on that, kiddo." Nathan shook his head but didn't argue. Instead, he held the door open for Olivia, and they stepped out together into the afternoon sun. The drive to the bank was quiet at first. Olivia stared out the window, watching the rural landscape roll by. Nathan glanced at her. "So, where exactly are you from?" She debated how much to say. "New York." "That explains the fancy talking." She let out a breathy laugh. "I suppose it does." Nathan drummed his fingers against the steering wheel. "So what brings a city girl like you out here?" She hesitated, then gave him the closest thing to the truth. "I needed a break from work." Nathan didn't press. He just nodded, as if understanding the need to escape. When they arrived at the bank, Olivia disappeared inside. Nathan leaned against the truck, waiting. 15 minutes later she emerged, her expression unreadable. "No luck?" he guessed. She let out a frustrated sigh. "They won't issue a temporary card until I verify my identity in person at my home bank." Nathan frowned. "So what now?" She crossed her arms. "I need to figure something out. Maybe call a friend. Book a hotel." Nathan considered this. He should probably just let her go. He had done enough, but then he heard Lily's voice in his head. "Are you coming back for dinner?" He sighed. "Look," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "I have a guest room at my place. You're welcome to stay there for a night or two, just until you figure things out." Olivia blinked. Nathan, that's really not necessary." "I know. But you don't exactly have a lot of options." She studied him for a long moment, as if trying to gauge whether he was serious. Then slowly she nodded. "All right," she said softly. "Just for a night or two." Nathan exhaled. He had no idea why he had made the offer. Maybe it was Lily's innocent invitation. Maybe it was the way Olivia had looked at him earlier, as if trying to understand why he had been kind to her. Or maybe, deep down, he knew that this woman, this mysterious stranger who had somehow entered his world, was about to change everything. The sky had darkened by the time Nathan pulled into the driveway of his modest home. The house wasn't much, just a small, single-story structure with an old wooden porch and a yard that had seen better days. But it was home. It was the place where he had raised Lily, the place where he had struggled and fought to build a life after losing his wife. Nathan cut the engine and glanced over at Olivia, who sat quietly in the passenger seat, her fingers absently tracing patterns on her coat. She had been uncharacteristically silent for most of the drive back, as if lost in thought. "You okay?" he asked. She blinked and turned to him, offering a small, almost sheepish smile. "Yeah, this is all new for me." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "What, riding in an old pickup truck?" She let out a short laugh. "No, I mean, accepting help like this." There was an honesty in her voice that made Nathan pause. He had assumed she was just another city woman passing through, someone who had seen and done it all. But there was something about her. Something guarded, something deeper than just the inconvenience of losing her wallet. "Look," he said, unbuckling his seatbelt, "you don't have to stay if you don't want to. I just figured—" "No," she interrupted quickly. "I appreciate it." "Really?" Nathan nodded and stepped out of the truck, waiting as Olivia followed suit. The moment they stepped inside, they were greeted by the sound of little feet racing across the hardwood floor. "Daddy!" Lily came barreling toward Nathan before stopping, short when she saw Olivia. Her eyes widened with excitement. "You really came back," Olivia chuckled. "Looks like I did," Lily beamed. "Do you like spaghetti? 'Cause that's what we're having for dinner." Nathan sighed, ruffling his daughter's hair. "That was supposed to be a surprise, kiddo." Lily giggled and ran back toward the kitchen, where the scent of marinara sauce and garlic filled the air. Olivia glanced at Nathan, surprised. "You cook?" Nathan shrugged. "Had to learn. Can't exactly feed a kid nothing but frozen dinners and takeout." She smiled. "That's impressive," he snorted. "It's just spaghetti." "No," she said softly. "I mean, you." Nathan met her gaze for a moment before clearing his throat. "Come on, make yourself at home." The three of them sat around the small wooden dining table, plates of spaghetti in front of them. Lily chattered excitedly between bites, telling Olivia all about her school, her friends, and her love for horses. Olivia listened intently, occasionally nodding and laughing at the little girl's animated expressions. Nathan watched the two of them, a strange warmth settling in his chest. He hadn't seen Lily this excited in a long time. "Do you have kids?" Lily asked suddenly. Olivia's fork froze halfway to her mouth. For a moment, she seemed caught off guard. "No," She said finally. I never really had the time. Lily frowned. That's sad. Olivia let out a breathy laugh. Yeah, she admitted. I guess it is. Nathan observed the exchange carefully. There was something about Olivia's tone, something wistful, almost regretful. Lily, seemingly satisfied with the answer, returned to her meal. Olivia, however, remained quiet for a moment longer, as if lost in a thought she wasn't ready to share. After dinner, Nathan washed the dishes while Olivia dried them, an easy rhythm forming between them. You didn't have to help, Nathan said, handing her a wet plate. I wanted to, Olivia replied. Besides, you've already done enough. For me, it's the least I can do, he smirked. Didn't take you for the dishwashing type, she smirked back. You'd be surprised. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the occasional clink of plates, the only sound between them. Then, after a moment, Olivia spoke again. Lily's a great kid, she said quietly. Nathan smiled. Yeah, she is. You've done a good job raising her. He hesitated before responding. I'm just doing the best I can. Olivia studied him for a moment. And what about you? Nathan frowned. What about me? She leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. You spend all your time working, taking care of Lily. What do you do for yourself? He let out a small chuckle. Sleep when I can. That's not what I meant. Nathan sighed, wiping his hands on a towel. Look, when you're a single parent, your life isn't about what you want. It's about making sure your kid has what she needs. That's just how it is. Olivia tilted her head slightly, as if considering his words. You sound like someone who's given up on having his own dreams. Nathan scoffed. Dreams don't pay the bills. Olivia opened her mouth to respond, but stopped herself, because deep down she knew exactly what he meant. Later that night, Olivia stood outside on the porch, arms wrapped around herself against the cool night air. The town was quiet, the stars overhead brighter than anything she ever saw in New York. She had spent years chasing success, building an empire, making sure she was always one step ahead. But here, in this small town, with a little girl who drew, pictures with crayons and a man who worked himself to the bone for her, everything felt different. She didn't belong here, and yet, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel lost. You all right? She turned to see Nathan leaning against the doorframe, watching her. She exhaled. Yeah, just thinking. He stepped closer, folding his arms. About? She hesitated, then admitted, I don't know. Nathan studied her for a moment, before nodding. Yeah, I get that. And for some reason, Olivia believed him. They stood there in silence for a while, the quiet of the night settling between them. Neither of them knew it yet, but something had shifted, something neither of them could walk away from. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a golden glow over the modest guest room Olivia had slept in. She blinked against the light, momentarily disoriented. It took her a few seconds to remember where she was. Not in her luxury Manhattan penthouse, but in the home of a single father in a quiet little town. The bed was simple, the quilt hand-stitched, the walls decorated with framed drawings that had clearly been made by Lily. It was charming, ordinary, yet comforting in a way she hadn't expected. She sat up and exhaled. This was just temporary, she reminded herself, just until she figured out what to do next. But a small part of her, the part she tried to ignore, wasn't so sure anymore. When Olivia stepped into the kitchen, the smell of bacon and coffee greeted her. Nathan was at the stove, dressed in jeans and a plain t-shirt, flipping pancakes with the same ease he had in the diner. Lily sat at the small wooden table, swinging her legs as she colored in a notebook. Lily was the first to notice Olivia. "Morning," she chirped. Olivia smiled. "Good morning." Nathan turned at the sound of her voice. "You sleep okay?" Better than I expected, she admitted, sliding into a chair. He smirked. What? No silk sheets? No room service? She rolled her eyes playfully. I'll have you know I'm very adaptable. Nathan chuckled and set a plate of pancakes in front of her. Let's see if you can adapt to diner-style breakfast. She took a bite and her eyes widened slightly. Okay, I'll admit, this is good. Lily grinned. Daddy makes the best pancakes. Nathan shrugged modestly. Had to master them. It's one of the few things Lily will eat without protest. Lily gasped. That's not true. I like grilled cheese, too. Olivia laughed, the warm atmosphere making her forget, just for a moment, the reality waiting for her outside this house. After breakfast, Nathan grabbed his jacket. I gotta head to the diner for a few hours, Lily pouted. Do you have to? Bills. Don't pay themselves, kiddo, he said, ruffling her hair. Olivia watched the exchange and felt an unexpected pang of admiration. Nathan wasn't just doing his best, he was doing everything. Before she could think better of it, she said, I can help. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Help with what? The diner, she said, surprising even herself. I mean, I owe you for letting me stay here. Might as well earn my keep. He studied her carefully. You ever worked in a diner before? She hesitated. Not exactly. Nathan smirked. This should be interesting. The diner was busier than Olivia expected. The morning crowd had thinned, but a few tables remained occupied by locals sipping coffee and eating late breakfasts. Nathan tied an apron around his waist and tossed one at Olivia. Think fast. She barely caught it, holding it up with mild horror. This is not my color, Nathan snorted. You'll live. Lily climbed onto a stool at the counter, watching with fascination as Olivia awkwardly adjusted the apron. Okay. City girl, Nathan said with a teasing grin. Let's see what you got. Olivia took a deep breath. She had run a multi-billion-dollar corporation, negotiated deals with powerful executives, and managed hundreds of employees. How hard could a small-town diner be? The answer, very. Within the first hour, Olivia spilled coffee on a customer, dropped a plate of scrambled eggs, and miswrote an order so badly that Nathan had to personally apologize to a grumpy old man named Earl. Nathan shook his head, trying and failing to hide his amusement. You do know, the goal is to serve the food, not wear it, right? Olivia shot him a glare. I'd like to see you negotiate a multi-million-dollar merger while sleep-deprived. And running on bad coffee, Nathan smirked. Touché. By the second hour, though, Olivia started to get the hang of it. She learned which regulars wanted extra syrup, which ones liked their coffee black, and even managed to carry 3 plates at once without disaster. She caught Nathan watching her a few times, his expression unreadable, and when their hands brushed, while reaching for the same coffee pot, she felt something stir deep in her chest. By the time the lunch rush was over, Olivia was exhausted but strangely happy. Nathan leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Not bad for your first day. Olivia wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. I think I lost 5 pounds. Running back and forth, Nathan chuckled. See, hard work builds character, she rolled her eyes. Says the man who does this every day. His smile faltered slightly. Yeah, well, not much of a choice, is there? Olivia hesitated. You ever think about doing something else? Nathan frowned. Like what? She shrugged. I don't know. Something that's just for you. Nathan exhaled, glancing at Lily, who was happily drawing at the counter. My dreams don't matter as much as making sure she's okay. Olivia's chest tightened. That hit too close. To home. She had spent her whole life chasing success, believing that achieving more meant being more. But now, for the first time, she wondered, at what cost? Later that evening, back at Nathan's house, Olivia sat on the porch, watching the stars. Nathan came out, handing her a beer. You survived the diner. That deserves a reward. She smirked, accepting the bottle. I think I still smell like bacon. Nathan chuckled, taking a sip of his own drink. "It's a good smell." Silence settled between them, comfortable and unspoken. Then, softly, Nathan said, "You were good with Lily today." Olivia turned to him, surprised. "She's a great kid." "Yeah, she is." He hesitated before adding, "She likes you." A warmth spread through Olivia's chest. She liked Lily, too, more than she expected. "I like her, too," she admitted. Nathan looked at her then, really looked at her, as if seeing something past the polished exterior, past the guarded walls she had built around herself. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia felt like someone saw her, not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, just as a person. She didn't know what to do with that. So instead, she looked back up at the stars, pretending she didn't feel the weight of his gaze on her. But deep down, she knew. Something was changing, and she wasn't sure she wanted to stop it. The next morning, Olivia woke to the sound of quiet voices coming from the kitchen. She stretched, her muscles sore from the unexpected work at the diner the previous day. Work. That was a strange thought. She was used to running board meetings, making high-stakes decisions, handling billion-dollar transactions, not spilling coffee and forgetting how to properly balance a tray. Yet, for the first time in years, she hadn't woken up to a barrage of emails, ringing phones, or the stress of another 18-hour workday, and somehow it felt nice. She pulled on a sweater and padded toward the kitchen, where she found Nathan and Lily sitting at the table, deep in conversation over a bowl of cereal. Lily looked up first, flashing a wide grin. "Morning," Olivia smiled. "Morning." Nathan glanced at her, smirking slightly. "Thought you might have overslept after your big day at the diner." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. I survived one of the toughest business landscapes in the world. I think I can handle waiting tables." Nathan chuckled, setting down his coffee. "Glad to hear it, 'cause you're coming back today." Olivia blinked. "Excuse me?" "You said you wanted to help out," he reminded her. "Well, we've got a lunch crowd, and Jerry, the guy who usually helps out on Wednesdays, called in sick." She hesitated. She should be finding a way to get back home, figuring out how to return to her real life. And yet, "I guess I can handle another day," she said casually, as if she wasn't making a completely irrational decision. Nathan nodded, but there was something in his expression, amusement, maybe even approval, that sent a strange warmth through her chest. Lily clapped excitedly. "Yay, does that mean you're staying for dinner again?" Olivia glanced at Nathan, who simply shrugged. "I suppose it does," she said, before she could think better of it. Later that morning, as Olivia was getting ready, she dug through her purse and realized her phone was finally charged. She hesitated before turning it on, knowing exactly what would happen. The second the screen lit up, it was flooded with missed calls, emails, and text messages. Her assistant, her CFO, even her father. She swallowed. She had disappeared without explanation. The rational part of her told her she needed to call someone back, let them know she was okay. But another part of her, the part that had enjoyed last night, laughing with Nathan and Lily, feeling like she belonged somewhere for the first time in years, wasn't ready to let go just yet. So she turned the phone back off. She wasn't ready to be Olivia Harper, CEO of Harper Hotels. Again. Not yet. The diner was packed when they arrived, far busier than the previous day. Olivia barely had time to tie her apron before Nathan handed her a tray. "All right, city girl, you know the drill," he teased. "Try not to drop anything this time." She shot him a glare, but took the tray. Anyway, by now she was getting the hang of things. She still made mistakes, but she also learned small, important details. How Mrs. Jenkins liked her coffee extra hot. How Old Man Earl always grumbled about the service, but still came in every day. how Nathan had a way of calming even the most difficult customers with a simple smile. She found herself watching Nathan more than she probably should have. He had an ease about him, a quiet confidence that came not from wealth or power, but from knowing exactly who he was. And that was something Olivia had never had. Just as the lunch rush started to slow, the bell above the door jingled. Olivia barely glanced up as she wiped down a table until she heard the voice. Well, well, this is an interesting sight. Her stomach dropped. She turned slowly, and there, standing in the doorway in an expensive tailored suit, was David Caldwell, her CFO. Nathan, who had been stacking plates behind the counter, immediately noticed her reaction. His brows furrowed as he followed her gaze to the sharply dressed man now approaching her. David smirked. "You're really out here playing waitress?" Olivia set down the rag in her hand. "What are you doing here?" David raised an eyebrow. "We've been trying to reach you for days. Your father was about to send a search team." Nathan stiffened slightly at the mention of Olivia's father. He hadn't even realized she had family looking for her. "I'm fine," Olivia said, keeping her voice even. "I just needed some time." David sighed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Olivia, you can't just disappear like this. The board is getting anxious. The shareholders are asking questions." Olivia clenched her jaw. She had spent years making sure everything at Harper Hotels ran smoothly, and yet the moment she took a step away, everyone acted like the world was ending. Nathan, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "Is there a problem here?" David turned to him, as if finally noticing him for the first time. He gave him a once-over, the worn jeans, the work boots, the rolled-up sleeves, before smirking. "And you are?" "Nathan Carter," he said evenly. "I run this diner." David's smirk grew. "Of course you do." Olivia felt an immediate rush of irritation. She knew that tone, the condescension, the judgment, and suddenly she hated that she had ever been part of a world where people like David looked down on people like Nathan. Nathan, however, remained unfazed. He simply wiped his hands on a dish towel and leaned against the counter. "Well, if you're done interrupting my employee's shift, maybe you should let her get back to work," he said coolly. David's smirk faltered. He turned back to Olivia. "Are you coming home or not?" Olivia swallowed. This was the moment she could go back to her life, her job, her responsibilities, or she could stay. Nathan didn't say anything, but she could feel his eyes on her. Lily's voice echoed in her mind. "Are you staying for dinner again?" And for the first time in her life, Olivia Harper chose herself. "I'm staying," she said firmly. David looked shocked, as if he couldn't comprehend the idea that Olivia Harper, the woman who never strayed from duty, was making a decision for herself. "Olivia?" he started, but she cut him off. "I'll call when I'm ready," she said, her voice leaving no room for argument. David exhaled sharply, clearly frustrated, but he nodded. "Fine, but don't take too long. You know what's at stake." With that, he turned and walked out, the bell jingling behind him. The diner was silent for a moment. Then Nathan exhaled, crossing his arms. "So, that was interesting." Olivia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She had made her choice, but now she had to figure out what that choice really meant. Nathan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching Olivia with an unreadable expression. The diner's hum had resumed, but the moment still hung heavy between them, the sharp contrast between the life she had left behind and the life she was stepping into. "So," Nathan finally said, his voice calm but firm, "want to tell me what that was about?" Olivia exhaled slowly, running a hand through her hair. "It's complicated." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Seems pretty simple to me. Guy walks in, tells you the world's looking for you, and you tell him to leave." Olivia met his gaze. "I wasn't ready to go back." Nathan studied her, then glanced toward the door where David had disappeared. "So, Harper Hotels, huh?" She stilled. Of course he had put the pieces together. He wasn't stupid. He had heard David say her full name, Olivia Harper, CEO of one of the largest luxury hotel chains in the country. Nathan let out a short breath and shook his head, almost amused. "I knew you weren't just some lost tourist." She winced. "Nathan, I was going to tell you—" "Were you?" he challenged, his voice quiet but pointed. She swallowed. "I didn't know how." Nathan's jaw tightened. "You didn't know how, or you didn't want to." Olivia let out a frustrated sigh. "Does it matter? I was trying to figure things out for myself before anyone else got involved." Nathan held her gaze for a long moment, then finally nodded. "Yeah, I get that." He turned back toward the griddle, tossing a few strips of bacon onto the heat. "So, what now?" he asked without looking at her. Olivia hesitated. "I don't know." Nathan flipped the bacon, his movements controlled. "Well, I can tell. What's not happening? You're not paying me back for that damn breakfast." Olivia let out a surprised laugh, the tension breaking for a moment. "I still feel like I owe you something," she admitted. Nathan shrugged. "You already paid me back. You helped out at the diner." She studied him, his easygoing demeanor a stark contrast to the world she came from. There was no hidden agenda, no expectation, just Nathan. And somehow, that made her feel even worse for keeping things from him. That evening, back at the house, Olivia sat on the porch, staring at the darkening sky. She had always loved city lights, but the quiet of this town had a different kind of beauty, a stillness she had never allowed herself to experience before. Lily appeared beside her, holding a cup of hot cocoa. "You looked sad," Lily said simply, handing her the cup. Olivia smiled softly. "I'm not sad. Just thinking." Lily scrunched her nose. "About what?" Olivia hesitated. How did she explain this to a 7-year-old? How did she explain that she had spent her entire life running after something, only to end up here, in a place that made her question everything? Finally, she just said, "About where I belong." Lily considered that, kicking her small feet. "Well, do you like it here?" Olivia glanced at her, surprised. "Yeah, I do." "Then stay," Lily said with the innocent certainty of a child. "Daddy likes you. I like you. And you make the best pancakes after Daddy." Olivia chuckled. "That's a very high compliment." Lily beamed. "You should tell Daddy you're staying." Olivia's smile faltered. If only it were that simple. Nathan joined her outside a few minutes later, leaning against the porch railing. "Lily's got it in her head that you're part of the family now," he said casually, watching Olivia out of the corner of his eye. Olivia chuckled. "She's persuasive." Nathan nodded. "Yes, she is." They sat in silence for a moment before Nathan finally said, "You know, I don't really care that you're rich." Olivia turned to him, startled. Nathan exhaled. "I mean, yeah, it was a shock, but I'm not mad about that. I'm just—" He hesitated. "I'm trying to figure out why you're still here." Olivia's chest tightened. She wanted to tell him that she liked the way Lily looked up to her, that she felt more alive in this little town than she ever had in a boardroom, that he made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, but instead all she said was, "I don't know." Nathan studied her for a long moment. Then finally he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Well," he said, his voice quieter now, "I hope you figure it out before it's too late." Something about the way he said it made her heart a clench, because for the first time since she had met Nathan Carter, she realized she might not be the only one with something to lose. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and fresh pine as Olivia sat on the porch, nursing a cup of coffee. The town was quiet at this hour, save for the occasional car rolling down the road and the distant bark of a dog. She had barely slept. Nathan's words from the night before echoed in her mind. "I hope you figure it out before it's too late." A part of her wanted to believe she had all the time in the world to make a decision, to stay, to leave, to embrace something she had never allowed herself to want. But deep down, she knew time wasn't on her side. Nathan emerged from the house, stretching his arms above his head. His grey t-shirt clung to his broad shoulders, and his hair was still tousled from sleep. He glanced at Olivia and nodded. "Morning." She offered a small smile. "Morning." He poured himself a cup of coffee and leaned against the railing, watching her. "You look like you didn't sleep." She let out a soft laugh. "How can you tell? You have that overthinking everything look." She sighed, staring down at her coffee. "Maybe." Nathan was silent for a long moment before he finally said, "You don't have to run from whatever it is you're afraid of." Olivia turned to him, surprised by his insight. "Who says I'm afraid?" Nathan smirked, taking a sip of his coffee. "I know the look. I've worn it before." Her throat tightened. "And what were you afraid of?" Nathan exhaled, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. "That if I let myself want something again, I'd lose it, just like before." The weight of his words settled between them. Olivia knew he was talking about his wife, about the fear of opening his heart only to have it broken again, and suddenly she realized they weren't so different. Both of them had spent years avoiding what scared them the most. But now, standing on this porch, looking at a man who saw her in a way no one else ever had, she wondered if it was time to stop running. The peace of the morning was shattered when Olivia's phone rang. She stiffened, the sound pulling her harshly back into reality. Nathan watched as she hesitated before. Picking it up, she already knew who it would be. "Olivia Harper," she answered, her voice automatically shifting into the poised professional tone she had spent years perfecting. "Olivia, thank God," came the urgent voice of her father, Richard Harper. "I've been trying to reach you for days." Olivia closed her eyes briefly. "I know, I just needed some time." "Time?" her father snapped. "Do you have any idea what's happening at the company? Investors are panicking. The board is in chaos. You don't have the luxury of time." Olivia gripped the phone tighter. "I'm handling it." "You're hiding," her father corrected, "and you need to come back before you lose everything you've built." Nathan had retreated into the house, giving her space, but she could feel his presence lingering just beyond the doorway. She hesitated, her father's words weighing on her. Hadn't she spent her whole life fighting for this? For success, for control, for power, and yet here in this quiet town she had felt something more real than she ever had in a boardroom. She swallowed hard. "I'll call you later." "Olivia." She ended the call before he could say more. Her hands were shaking. Nathan stepped back outside, his expression unreadable. "Everything okay?" She let out a shaky breath. "Yeah, just work." Nathan studied her carefully. "You sure about that?" She forced a smile. Positive, but she wasn't sure at all. Later that day, Olivia found herself in the diner, again wiping down tables after the lunch rush. Nathan was at the counter, sorting through receipts. Lily had spent the morning at a friend's house, and the diner had been busier than usual, leaving little room for conversation. But now, with just the two of them, the silence felt heavier. Finally, Nathan broke it. "There's a fall festival this weekend. Thought maybe you'd want to come." Olivia looked up, surprised. "A festival?" Nathan nodded. "Pumpkin carving, live music, lots of food. Thought Lily might enjoy having you there." Olivia hesitated. It was such a simple invitation, and yet it felt like so much more, because accepting meant she was staying, and she didn't know if she could promise that yet. "I'll think about it," she said carefully. Nathan nodded, but there was something in his expression, something almost resigned. "Yeah," he said quietly. "You do that." And for the first time, Olivia felt like she had disappointed him. That evening, Olivia sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. Her father had sent another email, a final warning. If you don't come back now, there won't be anything left for you. She should feel panic, should feel the same drive that had fueled her for years. But all she could think about was Nathan's quiet disappointment, Lily's innocent excitement, the way this town had started to feel like something more. She had spent her whole life chasing a dream that now felt empty. And for the first time she wondered, was she about to throw away something real? Before she could second-guess herself, she grabbed her coat and headed outside. She needed to talk to Nathan. Now! She found him in the backyard, fixing the old wooden fence. The golden light of the setting sun cast long shadows, making everything feel more fragile. He looked up when he saw her, his expression unreadable. Olivia took a breath. Nathan, Her words failed her. How did she say this? How did she explain that everything she thought she wanted suddenly didn't feel as important as this, as him? Nathan set down his tools, wiping his hands on a rag. You figured it out yet? His voice was gentle, but there was an edge of something else. Olivia swallowed. I think so. Nathan nodded slowly. And? She opened her mouth. But before she could speak, her phone rang. They both looked at it. Her father. Olivia's heart pounded. She had a choice to make. The phone vibrated insistently in Olivia's palm, her father's name glowing on the screen like a beacon, pulling her back into the world she had tried to escape. Nathan stood a few feet away, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. He was waiting, not just for her to answer the call, but for something more, a decision, an explanation, something that would tell him where she really stood. Olivia swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the phone. She knew if she answered, she would hear the voice that had dictated her entire life, telling her to stop playing games, to remember who she was, to come back home. And if she didn't? She exhaled sharply. Then, with deliberate finality, she declined the call. The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan's gaze flicked from the phone to her face, his expression unreadable. That was a big call to ignore. Olivia met his eyes. Yeah, she said softly. It was. Nathan studied her for a moment, then gave a slow nod. All right, just one word. No pressure, no demands, just all right. It was the gentlest thing anyone had ever given her. They sat on the back porch, the autumn air cool but not unkind. The stars blinked overhead, and the scent of damp earth and firewood lingered in the distance. Olivia hugged her knees to her chest. You know, when I was a kid, my father used to tell me that if I ever stopped moving, I'd fall behind. Nathan leaned back against the railing, one leg stretched out, the other bent at the knee. Sounds exhausting. She huffed a quiet laugh. It was, but I didn't question it. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to prove I was strong enough to handle everything. Nathan didn't say anything, just listened. Olivia stared at the ground. And I did. I built a company. I made a name for myself, but the problem with always moving forward is you never stop to ask if you're heading in the right direction. She turned to face him, her voice quieter now. Then I lost my wallet. And for the first time I had nothing. No title, no credit card, no security net. She swallowed. But instead of feeling powerless, I felt free. Nathan exhaled slowly, his gaze steady. And now? Olivia hesitated. Now? I don't know how to walk away from the life I built. Nathan studied her, his expression softer than before. I get that. She turned fully toward him. Do you? He gave a half smile, but there was something sad behind it. I built a life, too. It wasn't what I planned, but it became everything. And now, I don't know how to want something outside of it. They sat in silence for a long moment, two people standing at the edge of something they weren't sure how to name. Then Olivia whispered, I think I want this. Nathan's head turned slightly. Want what? She exhaled, her heart pounding. This. You, Lily. The way it feels to wake up and not have the weight of the world on my shoulders. I think I want to stay. Nathan's jaw tensed. But you don't know for sure. She hesitated. Olivia, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I can't be someone's second choice, and neither can Lily. His words hit her, harder than she expected, because he was right. If she stayed, it couldn't be out of fear. It had to be because she wanted this life more than the one she was leaving behind. And right now, she wasn't sure she was brave enough to say that out. Loud, Nathan let out a slow breath and stood. Come find me when you are. Then he walked inside, leaving Olivia alone on the porch, staring at the stars that suddenly felt too far away. The next morning, Olivia sat at the kitchen table, staring at a blank sheet of paper, a plane ticket. Back to New York sat beside it. She had booked it late last night, the weight of indecision pressing too hard on her chest. Lily skipped into the room, still in her pajamas. Are we making pancakes again? Olivia's throat tightened. Then Lily saw the plane ticket. She frowned, picking it up in her small hands. What's this? Olivia's heart ached. I might have to go back home, sweetie. Lily's face fell. But I thought you liked it here. Olivia swallowed. I do. Then why are you leaving? Why was she? Olivia forced a smile. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. Lily's lower lip trembled. Daddy said people always leave. Olivia's chest squeezed. Oh, honey, I don't want to leave. But you are, Lily whispered, and for the first time in her life, Olivia Harper wanted to cry. She found Nathan outside, fixing the fence again. He didn't look up when she approached. I booked a flight, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan nodded once, as if he had already expected this. When? Tomorrow. A muscle in his jaw ticked. Lily saw it. I know. He finally set down his tools and turned to face her. So that's it? Olivia exhaled. I don't know how to stay, Nathan. I don't know how to just walk away from everything I've built. Nathan studied her for a long moment, then finally said, Then I guess you've already made your choice. Something cracked inside her chest. She wanted him to fight for her, to tell her she didn't have to leave, that he would wait, that this, whatever this was worth figuring out. But Nathan Carter wasn't the kind of man who begged, and if she wanted this, she had to fight for it herself. That night, Olivia lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, haunted by every choice she had made. The life waiting for her in New York was safe, predictable, powerful. But this place, Nathan, Lily, they were real, and the thought of leaving them hurt in a way she hadn't been prepared for. For years, she had been afraid of falling behind. But now, for the first time, she was terrified of walking away from the only thing that had ever truly mattered. The sun was barely rising when Olivia found herself at the airport, ticket in hand, heart in her throat. She stood at the gate, watching people rush past, their lives moving forward, just like hers always had. She glanced at her phone. Nathan hadn't called. Lily hadn't begged her to stay, because they weren't going to ask her to choose them. She had to want it. She had to be brave enough to claim it. Olivia took a deep breath and turned around. She ran not just toward a man or a child or a town, but toward the life she finally wanted. The airport was a blur of movement, people rushing to their gates, flight announcements crackling over the intercom, the scent of coffee and jet fuel hanging thick in the air. But Olivia barely noticed any of it. Her heart pounded as she ran, in the opposite direction of her flight gate, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She had spent her whole life moving forward, always chasing something, success, control, perfection. But for the first time, she was running back to something. Instead, back to Nathan, back to Lily, back to the life she never knew she wanted. She didn't know if she was too late, but she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let fear decide for her anymore. The drive back to town felt like an eternity. She had barely taken time to think, just grabbed a cab, paid an obscene amount to get back, and spent the entire ride rehearsing what she would say. Would Nathan even listen? Would Lily still want her there? She clenched her hands in her lap, forcing herself to breathe. She had made her choice. Now she had to face whatever came next. When Olivia finally pulled up to Nathan's house, the sky was shifting into shades of dusk. She hesitated for only a second before stepping out of the car. The porch light was on, but the house was quiet. Too quiet. Her stomach twisted. Had she really messed this up? She knocked once, then again, her pulse quickening. No answer. She exhaled shakily. Maybe he was still at the diner. Maybe Lily was at a friend's house. Or maybe she had been too late after all. No, she refused to believe that, so she turned, marched down the steps, and headed for the one place she knew she might find him. The diner was nearly empty when Olivia stepped inside, the bell jingling above her, and there he was. Nathan stood behind the counter, wiping down a glass, looking every bit the same and yet different. There was something tired in the way he moved, something unsettled in his expression. His eyes lifted when he saw her, and for a split second, something flickered across his face. Shock, confusion, something else she couldn't quite name. But then it was gone, replaced by that careful, guarded look she had come to recognize. "You're back," he said simply. Olivia swallowed, stepping forward. "Yeah." Nathan set the glass down. "Flight get cancelled?" "No," he raised an eyebrow. "So what happened?" She took a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest. "I couldn't do it," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "I couldn't get on that plane. I thought I had to go back to everything I'd built. But then I realized—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. Nathan waited. "I realized none of it meant anything without her." Throat tightened. "Without you, without Lily, without this place." Nathan's jaw clenched slightly. "Olivia," she stepped closer, her voice pleading now. "I don't have all the answers, Nathan. I don't know how this is supposed to work, but I know that I want to stay. I know that I want to try if you'll let me." For a moment he didn't move, didn't speak. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he exhaled. "You left, Olivia." She flinched. "I know. You packed a bag, bought a ticket and left." Her chest ached. "I know." Nathan shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not mad at you for having a life outside of here. I'm not mad that you needed time to figure things out. But I can't—" He exhaled sharply. "I can't do this if you're gonna leave every time things get hard." Olivia's breath hitched. "Nathan, you don't just get to waltz back in and say you want to stay." His voice was strained now. "I've got Lily to think about. I've got myself to think about." Olivia swallowed past the lump in her throat. "I get that. I do. And I won't ask you to believe me right away, but I need you to know that I'm here. I'm staying." Nathan studied her, his expression unreadable. Then finally he let out a long breath, and to her relief he nodded. "All right," he murmured. Her heart soared, but she knew this wasn't over yet. Nathan Carter didn't trust easily, and if she wanted to stay, she had to prove it. The next morning, Olivia woke up early. She wasn't going to waste any more time. She drove into town, stopping at the real estate office. 1 hour later, she held a set of keys in her hand. By noon, she was standing outside a small but cozy storefront, staring at the "For Lease" sign. She had just replaced with "Coming Soon." Nathan and Lily found her there, the little girl's eyes wide with curiosity. "What's this?" Lily asked. Olivia smiled. "My new business." Nathan frowned slightly. "What?" She turned to face him, holding out the keys. "I figured I should do more than just say I'm staying. I should show you." Nathan took a step forward, his eyes scanning the storefront. "You're opening a business?" Olivia nodded. "Yeah, a bakery, actually. Well, a café, something this town could use." Nathan's brows lifted slightly. "You bake?" She smirked. "Not well, but I'll learn." "Lily," squealed, grabbing Olivia's hand. "Can I help? Can I be the taste tester?" Olivia laughed. "Of course." Nathan was still staring at her, something unreadable in his expression. Finally, he exhaled. "You really mean it, don't you?" She met his gaze. "Yeah, Nathan, I do." A long silence stretched between them. Then slowly he smiled, and in that moment Olivia knew she wasn't just staying, she was home. The scent of fresh-baked bread and warm cinnamon filled the air, as Olivia carefully arranged a tray of pastries inside the glass display case. The new café, Hearth and Home, was finally open, and though it had only been a few weeks, it already felt like it had always been part of the town. People came and went, chatting over coffee, flipping through local newspapers, and savoring the simple pleasures of a homemade meal. It was a far cry from the towering glass offices and luxury hotels she had once called her world, but this felt like hers. Nathan leaned against the counter, watching her with an amused expression. "You know," he said, smirking, "I never took you for the small business type." Olivia wiped her hands on her apron and shot him a playful glare. "And I never took you for the type to doubt me," he chuckled. "I don't doubt you. I just think it's funny that a few months ago you were running billion-dollar deals, and now you're debating whether to add more vanilla to the cookie recipe." Olivia crossed her arms. "Hey, vanilla is a big decision." Nathan grinned, and for a moment they just looked at each other, the easy warmth between them now something solid, something real. The walls that had once stood between them had crumbled piece by piece. Olivia had fought for this, and Nathan had finally let himself believe in it. The bell above the door jingled as Lily burst into the café, her backpack bouncing behind her. "Guess what? Guess what?" she squealed, running up to Olivia and Nathan. Olivia crouched down, smiling. "What?" Lily thrust a paper forward. "I won the art contest at school. My painting is going to be in the town fair next weekend." Olivia gasped. "Lily, that's amazing." Nathan ruffled his daughter's hair. "Told you were talented." "Kiddo," Lily beamed, then suddenly turned serious. "Olivia, you have to come see it." Something warm settled in Olivia's chest. She hadn't realized how much she had become part of Lily's world. "I wouldn't miss it for anything," she promised. Lily threw her arms around Olivia's waist, hugging her tight. Nathan watched. Them, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then suddenly he reached into his pocket. Olivia straightened as Nathan pulled out a small worn key and held it out to her. She frowned. "What's this?" Nathan exhaled, rolling the key between his fingers. "A key to the house." Her breath caught. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. "You don't have to take it. He let out a breathy laugh. "I just thought maybe you'd want to stop renting that little place and, actually stay, really stay." Olivia stared at the key. It wasn't an engagement ring. It wasn't some grand romantic speech, but it was something even bigger. It was a life. It was home. She looked up at Nathan, her heart pounding. "Are you sure?" Nathan met her gaze. "Yeah," he said quietly, "I am." For the first time in a very long time, Olivia felt like she wasn't floating, wasn't drifting between two worlds. She was exactly where she was meant to be. She took the key and curled her fingers around it, holding onto it like an anchor. Then, smiling through the tears in her eyes, she whispered, "I'm home." Nathan exhaled, his smile slow and genuine. "Yeah," he murmured, reaching for her hand. "You are." The town fair was in full swing, lights twinkling, music playing, children laughing as they ran through the grassy fields. Olivia stood next to Nathan, holding his hand as they admired Lily's painting, a small, cozy house with A bright café next door. At the bottom, in a child's uneven handwriting, was the title, Our Home. Olivia's throat tightened. She glanced at Nathan, and when he squeezed her hand, she knew. She had finally found the one thing she had spent her whole life searching for. Not success, not control, not power, but love. Real, honest, imperfect love. And she wasn't going to let it go. The last thing Olivia Harper ever expected was to fall in love with a small town, a single father, and a life so different from the one she had built. But standing there, surrounded by the people she had come to love, she knew the truth. She hadn't just chosen this life, it had chosen her too, and this time she was staying for good, and that's the end of our story. But before you go, I have a question for you. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love seeing how stories bring people together from all around the world. If you enjoyed this journey of love, fate, and second chances, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss another amazing story. Your support means the world, and it's what keeps this channel going. So if this story touched your heart, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves a good romance. Thank you so much for watching. Your time, your comments, and your engagement make this space truly special. Until next time, stay inspired, stay hopeful, and keep believing in love.